Hey, welcome and thank you for joining me. We're going to talk about how to MC a virtual event. And by the end of this video, you'll have my fail-proof guide as to how to be an incredible virtual MC, as well as the 3 essentials that you need to be an MC. You're going to have a great time with this. I appreciate you being here. So before we talk about the essential 3 E's of emceeing in a virtual world, I want you also to know that I did create another video on this same channel about emceeing as well, but it's more focused on the stage. And so I know we're talking about virtual, but I want you also to know that that one's available. It's titled How to Be an MC at an Event. So if you want to check that out as well, that'll just help out to give you a little bit more firepower to be the best MC possible. But this video is about virtual, so let's talk about that. So when COVID hit and the pandemic of 2020, all of a sudden everything was canceled that was live and everybody had to go virtual yesterday. I mean, I didn't even know what I was doing. And I lost all my work in one fell swoop. The people that were able to transition into the virtual world were really the best ones to be prepared. But I had to learn it real fast in order to survive. And so what I'm going to share with you is actually some of the tips, the most important things I learned and wish I had known before all of that happened. I'm just very excited that you're going to have no learning curve because I'm going to give you all the tips you need to make this virtual emceeing amazing. So number 1, be sure you understand your role as MC in a virtual world. Here's the challenge. Because the client, the person that hired you, sees that you're so capable, they're going to think that you can do everything. And maybe you can. But you need to be careful. I want you to consider all of the roles that you're capable of playing. In other words, if this was stage versus virtual, on stage as an MC, you're doing a couple of things. On virtual, because you're usually at home, they think you can do everything. And so you need to just make sure that they know exactly what you can do. Such as in the virtual world, you're going to have a lot more to do with the production on the transition side of things when it comes to being a part of the event. A majority of the events that I've done as a virtual MC, they want me there for all the days of the event. They don't just want me as an MC for the award ceremony like they might on stage in person. They want me for the entire 3 days to be the common thread that everybody knows and sees from the very beginning to the very end. And so you need to make sure with the client that you understand, do you want me to do music and countdowns? Do you want me to do all the transitions and all the speaker intros? Do you want me to do breakout sessions and help with the managing of the Zoom into a breakout? Do you want me to do Q&A with speakers? Do you want me to actually manage the chat within the Zoom itself? These are all questions that you might be thinking, holy smokes, I never would have imagined that they would expect that. But yeah, there's a lot of MCs that are capable of doing all of those things, and they probably have set it up so that every MC job they think somebody coming in can do, they should be able to do all of that. So just be ready to know the roles that they're going to have you play. And I found this out the hard way. That's why I'm telling it to you, because I remember this client coming to me saying, we need you to do all these things. And I said, okay, I got it. And I started learning, and then I realized, oh my gosh, they need me to create their slide deck. Like it got that crazy. I was almost like an executive assistant for the event planner. And the next thing I knew, I'm creating transitions and music and promo videos, and it was insane. They expected so much from me because I didn't put any boundaries around the roles that I needed to play. And so if you feel comfortable with doing that, then go for it. But if you feel like, oh man, that's way too much, then let them know. You won't lose the gig. You just need to figure out your value and what you're capable of doing. So number 1 was understanding your role as MC. Number 2 is knowing what the production is going to be with you as MC, and if they have production on site for you, that would be really amazing. Within that production, you also have to have a production and expectations call with the client. What that means is you're just going to talk to them about all the things we've already just mentioned in number 1, but in number 2, this expectations call is really interesting. You find out on this call if they've hired a production team. Production teams are so helpful because then they handle pretty much everything I just said in number 1. And it's so great because now you're not handling all those little details. And there are some really great production agencies I recommend out there. In particular, I recommend the Greg Hawkes Agency. If you go to hawksagency.com/virtual, you'll see one of the best there is out there. They can handle anything in your virtual world. Why is this important? Well, it's one thing for an MC and a client to have a virtual Zoom address and then everybody signs in. It's a whole other animal when there's production and a production team like Hawkes Agency comes in and they actually help you to manage all of that. So as a client, you can do what you're gonna do. As an MC, you're gonna do what you do. So helpful. Number 3 is to invest and ensure you have a stable internet connection and Ethernet. Now, a lot of speakers and MCs think, oh, it's okay if I just have a Wi-Fi connection. No, that's not okay. You need to be hardwired in. You need to have upload and download speeds of 1 gigabyte. And in my neighborhood, we didn't have this capability because of what was built into our HOA. So I had to go buy another internet provider. Yeah, it's a pain. I have 2 internet providers so that I ensure that if the one internet has a problem and it can't upload to the speeds I need, the second one kicks in. Yep, that's a big investment, but that's what it takes to be a really good MC. I recommend that for speakers and all performers as well. You can test your speed out at fast.com. Number 4, have your bells and whistles ready to go. That means you got to be ready. You got to have your setup and everything going. During the height of the pandemic, I had multiple cameras set up and I had what's called an ATEM switcher. And so that allows me with the ATEM Blackmagic to switch between different cameras just by the press of a button. I had what's called a Stream Deck, which allowed me to load all of my music cues into a little box, but it's just a software connected to computer. And I would just press the icon and the slide would pop up on my screen. It was amazing. Or the music, or even a video. It's like a high-powered TV production. It is so awesome. So having all of your bells and whistles ready to go, your music queued up, your teleprompter, your notes, everything that you need to have as a virtual MC, have it right at your fingertips. They'll appreciate you so much, especially if your slides are ready and you know how to share them and you know how to do all of those things that sound simple. They really aren't. And then you'll be a rock star. So number 5, I recommend practicing a run through with your client or even with your peers. If the client doesn't have time to do it, you need to demand it. You need to say, hey, look, we got to go line through this convention, through this event. Make sure that they know that you're serious, because a lot of the times they'll say, oh, we'll make it work. No, you got to make sure that every little thing happens, because what if you logged in and it was on their account, but they don't know how to make you a co-host? Like little goofy things that you'd never think of until you're actually there. So try out everything, such as bringing in a speaker on a Zoom right there. Sometimes they don't even know how to get that guy's camera to work. Being able to troubleshoot all of those things, but going line by line through it and practicing with the client. If the client won't do it, you have to demand it, and at least practice with a friend so that you are in game-ready mode whenever you log on for your virtual MC event. And you know, if you find these tips helpful, because I have a couple more I'm going to share with you, I would love for you to put in the comments that it's something that I've taught you that was interesting or helpful so far. But I also maybe would recommend, if you're a virtual MC, you could probably be really good at it on stage. You might also be a good public speaker as well. I've made other videos on how to do that and so forth on this very channel. So I'd recommend you just type in how to start a career as a public speaker. Go check that out. Maybe it will resonate with you. And I bet you've got something you could do as a public speaker because you're good at doing virtual MC. And one of the reasons that you might want to look into being a public speaker as well is that most of the time, what a public speaker makes in 1 hour is what an MC makes over a multi-day period. And so maybe that's something you want to look into. Now for the 3 essential E's of being an amazing MC. You ready? Number 1 is energy. That might be obvious, but I want you to think about your level of energy that you bring. You're probably going to be the first face they see, and you're going to be this consistent person of energy that brings everything together for the entire event the entire time. They're expecting a lot from you. You need to bring all that you possibly can. Bring the energy. The best I've seen at doing this would be Rob Foray. If you go to robforay.com. He's a guy that started as a DJ, and now he's one of the best virtual MCs I've ever seen in my life. He actually has a disco ball. He's got music. It's hilarious. He does game shows. This blows my mind what he can do in virtual. You need to check him out. And then of course there's Jeff Civilico. He's a legend on stage as an MC, but he's also a legendary MC on virtual. What's so interesting about Jeff is that he still has audience engagement. He's so good at it. In fact, he was stuck in Costa Rica right when the pandemic hit. He figured out how to do everything through his iPhone. It's an amazing story. One of the best virtual MCs you'll ever see because he's so funny, so engaging. He would leave the chat open and make sure that he was able to engage through the chat with the people. It was a very fascinating thing to watch him MC virtually. And then there's a gal named Beth Z. Yeah, Beth Z is one of my favorites. She and I did a bunch of events together where I was the speaker and she was the virtual MC. She just got everyone involved. She was very fun, very interesting. She tied things up so nicely. An excellent MC. You need to check her out too. And her website's a funny website. It's called yournerdybestfriend.com. The second essential E of being a great MC in the virtual world is to entertain. Yeah. Whatever you can do to bring entertainment, it is so essential. The client wants it and loves it. The best MCs I've actually seen are the ones like Beth Z, who actually ask the client to make sure that they have a dress-up party. You know, people show up and put costumes on. They might do what Rob Foray does, which is karaoke parties. Karaoke, dress up, you know, having a bottle of their favorite drink or whatever, like that kind of thing is so fun for people. And so when you have a chance to do that, be as entertaining as possible. The other thing you need to do is make sure that the chat is open and their screens are on. When the chat's open, you're able to interact with the people in a completely different way. What I've even found is that the chat becomes a show within the show. So while I'm speaking or performing or emceeing, I'm seeing other things coming in the chat and I can engage with them that way. It makes for a very cool interaction. In fact, that's my favorite part of being a virtual MC, is engaging through the chat with people on a personal level. And then of course, the final E, be engaging. I've given you some great ideas as far as engagement is concerned, whether it's the chat being open or just being entertaining, but all of these three fit together: energy, engagement, entertainment, you name it, you do it, you bring it. It's going to change the way that you are received as a virtual MC and they'll love you for it. Here are three final points that I want to share with you before we wrap this up. Number one, I want you to be a master summarizer. Now, that may sound like a big word, but think about it. You've just heard people speaking. You've now been a part of everybody's lives for a couple of days or for, you know, the amount of time you're on this virtual event. You're the MC. Your job is to summarize what you just heard from a speaker, what you just saw happen in the chat, what's going on in the world. There's a lot of things you can do to make that really amazing. As a master summarizer, you become somebody invaluable. Nobody else can do it like you. So make sure that you're listening to the speakers. Make sure that you're paying attention to all that's going on and summarize it very well. They will love you for it. I want you to check out a guy named Dale Irvin. If you go to daleirvin.com, he's a professional summarizer. He's made his living doing that for years on stage, and then he transitioned over to virtual when he had to. Here's the thing about Dale. He started out as a comedian, one of the greats of all time. Then he became a public speaker. Then he realized he was so good at listening to a speaker do a speech, he could then take some notes and summarize it. He'd come back out on stage and kill it by summarizing what the speaker just said and doing something funny. One of the most amazing things you'll ever see on any stage is Dale Irvin, the master summarizer. The other idea I give you is to drive the theme home. The theme to the client is the most important part. You know, maybe it's elevate or to the summit or the goals of the year, you know, you name the theme. That's so important to them. If you'll continually mention the theme in everything that you say and do, in every transition, the client will be very grateful for that. And finally, I'd recommend you hire a production crew. If, for whatever reason, you are at all not confident in your ability to run all of these bells and whistles and think through all these things and manage all the scripts, I want you to know that I hired a production team and it was the best thing I could have done as a virtual MC. I hired a guy named Jordan Gibby. Now, Jordan is a very busy guy. He does all kinds of events as a videographer, as a production guy. But when he came to my house and he helped me get everything set up, he actually sat on the ground right next to me with his computer on and he was running the entire show, so I didn't have to think about it. In fact, Jordan was so good at this that I brought him in for almost every single event that I had where I could afford to have him there. So having somebody next to you as your production is a humongous bonus tip. If I'd have known that right when I got started, everything would have changed for me as a great virtual MC. Instead, I struggled through it alone. I was sitting there trying to do the ATEM switcher by myself in the Stream Deck and turn on the camera and get the lights right and the microphone perfect. And then I had a piano right here and I was switching cameras. I had 6 or 7 cameras at the same time. It was insane what I was trying to do by myself. I'd recommend bringing in a production person or crew. That'll make all the difference. I hope that this has helped you. Thank you very much for taking a minute to watch. If you want to put in the comments what you found the most helpful, I'd love to interact with you there. Thanks for joining me and good luck on being the world's best virtual MC.